It's raining, it's pouring. This is Funny the Clown Podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. What is it? September 6th, 2022. This episode 160. Here to discuss, I guess, I don't know what you call this guy. I guess he was a comic everybody knew of, okay, and certainly had his following base. And he was one of those. I guess you call hard-working comics. I guess you call him a working comic. I guess Mr. George Wallace. We're going to be discussing, and to do that today. How many times am I going to say I don't know. I'm not fucking prepared here. All right, let's get prepared. Today's episode is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. As always, for the spicy, sweet, savory taste of game time. Only one G Vegas. Go to www.gvegas.webs.com. Put the whammy jam in your mouth. And you wonder why I'm shook up today? I'll tell you why I'm shook up today. Because we're supposed to film the commercial today for G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. And it hasn't rained in months around here. It's been the dry season, okay? And the one day, Labor Day, that we decided we're going to put on this big barbecue and we're going to film the commercial, pouring rain all friggin' day, which shows you Mother Nature has a sense of humor. So being a comedian, good one, Mother Nature. I get it. Let's rain and ruin Dennis's commercial, but hey, we'll get it done, right? What don't happen today can happen tomorrow. Can't happen yesterday because the past is gone, but the future isn't written, folks. Remember that. What would George Wallace think about buffalo sauce? I think he'd love this stuff personally, okay? I don't know George Wallace, but he strikes me as a buffalo sauce kind of guy, man. Get some chicken wings, little buffalo sauce, right? Maybe macaroni and cheese, little buffalo sauce, right? You can put stuff on the eggs, okay? You all kinds of crazy stuff you can put buffalo sauce on, right? I've seen people put ketchup on eggs, right? Why not put buffalo sauce on them? Just as good. Put a little whamma jamma. All right, George Wallace. Let's see. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, which I wanted to bring up this point. Atlanta, Georgia is actually a mecca for stand-up comedy. Everybody thinks, hey, if I want to be a big-time comedian, I got to go to either New York or LA. That's the only place things are happening. But no. Atlanta, Georgia. At one point, comedy was so popular in Atlanta. Literally, almost every street corner had a comedy club. Man, you could walk out of one and walk right into another across the street. It was just that packed with comedy clubs. And the punchlines down there, I think that's the big one. But I mean, so many comedy clubs, such a huge thing in Atlanta that that's one of the places. If you want to be a working comic, well, there's plenty, and I mean plenty of work down in Atlanta. Big thing. His mom died at only 16, which forced him to move out of Atlanta and move to Ohio and start working for Firestone Tire Company out there, which, paying the bills, right? Let's see. While working professional, went to college. After college, he moved to New York City to pursue his lifelong dream of being a comic, which, if you grow up in Atlanta and that's like I said, it's a big thing down there. Everybody's into comedy. I mean, how could it not be your dream? That's what everybody, that's what everybody does. That's what everybody's talking about. Yeah, well, I want to go be a big one, man. And happened to me, I was a Boston comedian. I asked a lot of the Boston comics I started with, hey, what are your goals in comedy? Everybody had the same one. It was to work with Lenny Clark. So, he's the Boston representative of comedy. I set that as my goal. Work. Finally, I got the call. Hey, you want to book Lenny in your room? Yeah, you bet I fricking do. And had him on my TV show, The Comedy Kitchen. Had a great night of comedy for Joke in the Box Comedy Club, my club. But I mean, well, it was a great thing that I reached my goal of working with Lenny Clark. After that, I had no one else to do. It was like, that was the goal. Now what do I do? I don't know. So now I'm figuring out new goals in comedy. But sure, man. I mean, here's a guy, you want to try comedy, go to New York. That's where you're going to get discovered. Didn't have much success at first at it. I mean, which, I've said that before. Places like Boston are a good place to get you ready to go to New York or LA. They get you ready, You don't just go to New York and say, I'm going to start being a comic right from scratch. It's very difficult, especially LA. I've had friends, comic friends who go out there and they tell me there's a lot more opportunity in Boston, man. Like you go to LA, you got to be at the top of your game, man. There's no such thing as, being a starting comic out there, man. It's like you got to be at the top of your game if you want to get some opportunity out there. So he started working as an advertising agent to pay the bill in New York, pay the bills, because if comedy ain't paying the bills, damn it, you got to work a regular job. We all know that. Which, he actually went to college for advertising, which, I mean, if you're going to be a comic advertising shows and selling tickets, that's a lot of it right there. So, and now here's where dumb luck comes along here. And I actually had a guy, I got to I got to fly up and to Alaska one time and open for one of my comedy heroes, Carl LeBove, and went out and did some shows out in Vegas with him. And it was we're hanging out Ron Jeremy all weekend and just a bunch of stars. And Sam Kinnison's brother Bill was out there and his wife Sherry, and it was one of those crazy weekends. And everybody saw I was doing that. Like, how did you do that, man? I was like, well, I met this guy on eBay buying Sam Kinison memorabilia. He's like, there's been guys in this business 30 friggin' years waiting for an opportunity. You get to do it because you bought shit on eBay. And I said, that's right, I did. So you never know when a stupid opportunity is gonna walk in. And they say, some people, they make it in this business like that. Other people, it takes years and years of grinding to make it. It's dumb luck. There's not that one's one funny or the other. Just right place, right time. We've said that before. But well, he was an advertising agent. One of his clients, okay, George Wallace's clients as an advertising agent, decided he was going to open up a comedy club. And I guess, dealing with George at the advertising agency, just like this persona and he was just generally a funny guy, which most comics are always, even off stage, we're always looking for the joke. And decided to give him a job over there. And he gave him his big break. He first took the stage over there and referred to himself as Reverend Dr. George Wallace. And that was his big break in comedy that got him going. And he stayed in New York for several years, trying to, perfect the routine, which, you perfect your routine there, boom, you hit a big club, and you never know who's watching the, right 6 minutes could change 6 minutes could change your life in a big club, I'll tell you. Let's see. While he was out there, he actually he lived with fellow struggling comic Jerry Seinfeld, which yes, there was a time when Jerry Seinfeld actually struggled in comedy, believe that or not. See, you never know where your heroes start from right there. Let's see. 1978, he moved out to the West Coast, recognized immediately as a talent because, he got himself ready before he went out there. Let's see. Somebody recognized his talent and hired him as a writer for the then Red Fox show, which I think that only lasted a season, but hey, Red Fox, that's not a bad place to be, right? Became a regular at the Comedy Store out there, which, here's some names he's in with other regulars: Richard Pryor, Rodney Dangerfield, Roseanne Barr, Jay Leno, and Robin Williams. So, hey, you're rubbing elbows with the right people out there, okay? And, I'm sure he made his connections out there at the Comedy Store, whatever. Decided to go on the road for a while, which I'm considering doing, going on the road for a while. And then I'll always come back to Boston because I love that dirty water. Boston, you're my town. But I got the itch just to travel around the country and just do the things I never done, do the comedy stuff, just do everything, Let's see. You went on the road opening for, George Benson, Diana Ross, Donna Summers, and Smokey Robinson. Which there's some big names right there. Which, yeah, back in the day, a lot of musicians used comedians as opener. I know Elvis did, yeah, for a while. Used Pauly Shore's dad, Sammy Shore. They were good friends, yeah. And that was like a common thing for musicians to use comedians to warm up the crowd. I know Andrew Dice Clay. He once got to warm up the stadium crowd for Guns N' Roses. I did that freaking gig right there. That's a gig right there, let me tell you. I would love to warm up the crowd for Van Halen, man. That's my favorite band of all time, let me tell you. And I know they're not together. We're talking about a tribute tour for Eddie. So, I mean, if they did a tribute tour, I would love to open a show as a comedian for Van Halen. But you guys first have to make my movie, The World Needs a New Superhero. You gotta make that like the #1 movie seen on the internet. Then possibly they'll call me. Until then, I'm stuck here talking about it. But I don't mind talking about it. I like reviewing the history of comedy. Let's see. What was it? 1995. George Wallace, he was named Best Male Stand-Up by the American Comedy Awards, getting recognition right there for your contributions to comedy. He became a regular on radio. He was on the Tom Joyner morning show. He was a regular on that, which led to he joined Isaac Hayes on WRKS in New York for his own show. Got his own HBO comedy special, which like I said, back in that day, getting an HBO comedy special, that's the equivalent of now getting a Netflix special, I think. It was the pay, it was what, Cinemax, Showtime, HBO, one of the big pay channels. That was the hot spot for comedy to be. After that, I think Comedy Central, that was like the big spot you wanted to be. Now it's Netflix if you want your big Netflix special. So, well, the venues are changing. Where's the hot spot to do comedy? Back then, that was the place to be. Where were the other place to be? Also had appearances, credits to his name on the Tonight Show. Instant fame back then if you're on the Tonight Show. The Oprah Winfrey Show, which I mean, you can't argue with what Oprah's done, man. If you want to be interviewed, she's the gal. Late Night with David Letterman. I mean, these are all the big shows you want to be on back then. 2006. He had his most famous bit about the younger generation. I guess that's part of his routine where he got the best response. He almost every show uses the catchphrase "Get your mess right," which I guess is a big thing with the kids. And he says these kids a bunch of dumbasses on a smartphone, which was really one of his. Which I dig that one myself. It's so true. But they don't want to work for a living, but they're going to have their, $1,000 smartphone. I don't know how they're affording it. I don't know, because none of these kids want to work nowadays. But damn it, they got their smartphone. Here was an interesting 2007. He had an onstage injury, and he won $1.3 million for tripping over some wires at the Bellagio during a comedy show. And I guess he got a little bit messed up, and 1.3 million in punitive damages, which you can't just make up a figure like, hey, I want 1.3 million. You got to prove you lost that much money. So I mean, when he tripped on these wires, he's injured. He can't perform comedy anymore. Well, how much money did you lose out on 1.3 million? I mean, that shows you how much this guy's making per comedy show right there. I mean, that's just a big settlement right there. After that was over, he announced the end of a 10-year run performing in Vegas. Said he wanted to pursue other things, which, the mafia out there in Vegas, you don't really want to mess with them. I was watching Winning Time, the show about the Lakers there, and they wanted to get the head coach there, the Tarkanian, the Shark there from Vegas, and a few people ended up dead. They didn't like the idea of Tark going to LA. So, allegedly, because you're going to say allegedly on a podcast. So allegedly, some people ended up dead, and it was a big mafia thing. You don't mess with Vegas. So you start messing with the Bellagio, and they got to pay you 1.3 million. I'm not saying there was a price on this guy's head, but who the hell knows what happened? Couldn't have been that big of a price, because I do know. Let's see where we at here. He had political ambitions, okay, which I couldn't enter the political world. It would drive me crazy. I think they're all crooked. It's just this big, it's this big, rich man club, or, if you're power driven. I guess I'm not power driven where I need power over other people. But let's see, in 2006, he considered running for mayor of Vegas, and he was making promises that, out on the main strip there, he'd turn them into, he'd shut down the two main strips from cars, and he'd turn them into tramways, and maybe he'll take like tramways to all the casinos and stuff like that, and he'd reinvent like the back streets for cars and stuff like that. But I guess he only considered. He never actually ran for mayor of Vegas. And I guess if you run for mayor of Vegas, then the mafia won't touch you out there. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But let's see. As we mentioned, want some unknown facts about George Wallace. As we mentioned, he was roommates with Jerry Seinfeld, when they were both struggling comics. He was best man at Jerry Seinfeld's wedding. So that shows you how close he can be with people in the old comedy business, right? Let's see. His nephew is an NFL player who plays with the 49ers and the Chiefs. So I guess they got some talent in that family. One's a $1 million comedian, and another one plays in the NFL. Can't beat that. Did do some movie work. Had some supporting roles in some films. Three Strikes, the Coen Brothers, the Lady Killers, Batman Forever. I remember that one. He played the mayor. Let's see, a Rage in Harlem, The Wash, Punchline, which I saw that one now. The kids ain't gonna remember Punchline, but that was back in, oh my gosh, must have been the 80s. There was a story, I believe it was Sally Field, and she wanted to be a comedian. And Tom Hanks, he was a comedian, and she was trying to get some jokes, and she just trying to make it. And her husband, John Goodman, from the Roseanne Barr show, that was the husband. And it was one of those. It was if you're a comedian, you loved it. If you weren't a comedian, it was like yeah. But if you want to ever just see like a raw movie about comedy, look up Punchline. It's an all-time classic for comedians. Let's see. What are his other movies? Things Are Tough All Over, Postcards from the Edge, and Mr. Deeds. Those are pretty much his movie credits right there. Which, you know, if you get in one of those movies doing it, I wouldn't mind being in Batman, even if it was a small role. He played the mayor. I played a mayor in a Batman movie. Well, hey, I played a superhero when the world needs a new superhero, so I can't say that I have been in the movies. Hopefully, we're gonna make the world needs a new superhero part 2, but it's tough to deal with people. Okay, actors are tough to deal with. Everybody's got a problem with something. They have, it's fun making the movie, but dealing with people is the hard part. Same thing with comedy. And I was always going to be in a band, and I said I couldn't do it because I knew I'd take it serious, and if the other band members were taking it serious, I'd want to punch them in the mouth. So that's why I could never be in a band. So I chose comedy, figuring all I got to do is just be me up there on stage telling jokes. But there are, the political, and we've talked about it, the business side of comedy. So I still do got to deal with people. So I didn't get away with it I didn't get away from people like I thought I would. We got something coming up. I'll tell you when I end things here. My next project, I'll tell you, it's going to be a a nice way to retire too. Like, not that I'm going to retire, but a nice thing in my older age to not have to deal with as many people. Let's see. Did do some TV shows. He was on Scrubs. He was on Seinfeld, which obviously, if Jerry Seinfeld's his best friend, you got to get him on your show. He did the introduction on one of Seinfeld's stand-up videos, DVDs, that stand-up specials. Let's see, The Last Laugh, Hubie Halloween, some TV series is in. And I guess to end it all off, if you want to look up his bibliography, it is called Laugh It Off, Mr. George Wallace. And yeah, I got to say he was kind of a writer for the Red Fox show. And I mean, Red Fox was like the original dirty comedian, and Richard Pryor took over the dirty from him, and then Eddie Murphy took over the dirty from Pryor. So it was like 3 generations. Which, if you see the movie Harlem Nights, you can see 3 generations of who inspired you. But this guy George Wallace, he was like a tell it like it was comic, and I mean, like starting out Mecca, Atlanta, Georgia, just feeling that vibe of comedy and almost wanting to try it and having the guts, because back then, hey, you had to drop and move to New York or LA, to really become successful. You get ready in places like Boston and Atlanta, you can be a working comic and do really good. But I mean, if you want to hit that next big stage, those are the ones. Just paying his dues and dumb luck. Hey, somebody, one of your clients at an advertising agent wants to open a comedy club, and he thinks you're funny. Come on down, and boom, we've got some funny stories on how people get started in comedy, and guess that's got to be right up there, one of the funny ones. You ever wanted to try comedy? You don't have to be a comedian. You just go around the water cooler at work and just be like the comedian at work. Tell somebody a joke. Tell them to listen to Funny Like Clown podcast. Tell them to buy some G Vegas buffalo sauce, and who knows? Maybe I'll be suing somebody for $1.3 million dollars one day if you guys, keep putting it out there. Keep exploring the history of comedy with me. Hey, you know what? Even if I don't hit it big, I'm having fun. I hope you are too. This is Funny Like Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. Till next time, joke around because life's too damn short. Good night.